Hi, this is Paul Mailing for Acoustic Guitar, and we're here today to talk about warming up. A lot of people don't know this, but I learned this late in the game that your hand, just like the rest of your body, needs to warm up. I should say your hands, because we're going to talk about warming up with the right hand and then the left hand. And just in the same way that you wouldn't expect to just jump out of bed and run a marathon, you got to warm yourself up before you even start playing at the level that you were playing yesterday when you put the guitar down. For instance, when I was a younger man, I used to go to bed and think I'm going to jump out of bed and start playing exactly where I left off the night before. And I would get frustrated, and I would use that frustration as an excuse to not practice. So I'm here to tell you, you don't have any excuses to not practice, and warming up will make your practicing more efficient and will make your development as a musician shorter in time because you won't be frustrated. So give it 10 or 15 minutes every morning when you wake up. First exercise is super simple. I have the metronome at 60 beats per minute so that if you don't have a metronome, you can use the clock on the wall. No excuses. All right, this is very simple. It's all downstrokes. It's all on an open string, and I'm purposely using 60 beats per minute because it's slow and we can really get into it at all levels and all abilities. So if this is too slow for you, hang with me because I'm going to give super expert level variations on these. But right now, just downstrokes on an open E string, 1. So you want to play loudly like this. So this is example 1, measure 1. Measure 2 is the same thing with alternate picking. Down, up, super easy, right? Up. And now the next measure of example 1 is starting with an upstroke. Up, down, up, down. You'd be surprised how hard this can be. And a word about this, I'm going to turn off the metronome. A word about upstrokes. The goal with playing with an upstroke is so that it sounds equally powerful and clear as a downstroke. So we use all downstrokes because that's sort of like the basic molecule of guitar playing is a downstroke on an open string. And you get those to all match using downstrokes. Then you use alternate strokes like I just showed you, trying to match the upstroke with the downstroke. And then we start with the upstroke so we can really hear where we are with that. So again, measure 3, example 1, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And measure 4 is down, 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 up, down, 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 up. Now, expert level, you would do the same thing except twice as fast. But you beginners out there, I don't want you to jump to the expert level just yet. You're a beginner and you know it. If you aspire to be an advanced player, stay with it and earn it. But don't jump ahead unless you're sure you can do it. Be your own teacher, be your own referee. All right, so we double this by simply going measure 1, all down, measure 2, up, down, up, measure 3, up, down, up, down, up, down, measure 4, down, 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 up, down, 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 up. Any questions? Email me, care of the magazine, Pozzo@Acoustic Guitar. Okay, example 2. We're just going to keep going because we're on a roll now. We're getting warmed up, and we're just warming up this hand so far. So this is all open strings again. I recommend that you do all of these exercises on every string at every tempo on your metronome, starting at 60 and then gradually advancing. And I also recommend using all fingers when we get into the left hand, you playing in all positions on the guitar. More about that in a second. Example 2, measure 1 is simply down, down, up, down, 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 measure 2, measure 2. Measure 3. Continuing on, example 2, measure 4. So down, up, down, 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 up, up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. Or you could keep the picking consistent, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, or down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Either way, I would recommend both. I tell my students that come to me for private lessons, when you come to a fork in the road, you should take it. And what that means is you should be able to go left or go right on any musical choices or any technique choices, whether it's a downstroke or a finger choice. You should always be able to go in any direction. So you practice for every eventuality. All right, advanced level, example 2. We're just simply using the same tempo and doubling everything, but this is for the advanced players. Ready? Down, 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 down. Next measure. Next measure. Next measure 4. Okay, we've warmed up the right hand now. It's time to warm up the left hand. These exercises are going to seem like they're integrating both hands, but I want you to mostly concentrate on the left hand for now. And then, you know, of course, if things get sloppy, then we have to think about the synchronicity between the two hands. But we're back at 60 beats per minute. We do this in first position because the frets are furthest apart there, which means your hand is going to be stretching. I have big hands, so this may not look like I'm stretching much, but for you, this may be a stretch. If it's too much of a stretch, simply go up to the highest fret that you can on your guitar. If you don't have a cutaway, maybe that's, the 10th fret. The frets are closer together up here, so it's less of a stretch for your hand, but you still get the benefit of warming the fingers up. And again, I mentioned the basic building block of playing guitar is a downstroke on an open string. The second building block really is one finger down, adding another finger. So in first position, our first exercise is simple. Just one finger and alternate picking. Now measure 2 of example 3 is second, third. Measure 3. Now, a note about the tab that you're looking at, we've simplified this, but you can be your own teacher and increase the degree of difficulty on your own depending on your skill set and your desire level. For instance, what goes down or what goes up must come down. So this exercise is and then we go back down. Measure 1, measure 2, measure 3, now measure 2, and now measure 1. And again, this is using alternate picking. We could use reverse picking, which means starting with an upstroke. That would look like this. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, up. You get the idea. For advanced players, you would simply do this twice as fast, which, skipping ahead, is similar to exercise 5B, but we'll get to that when we get there. So here we are, example 3, measure 1 at double time. Got it? Okay, let's try example 4, which is similar, but we're using everything relates back to the first finger. So we have first finger, second finger, first finger, third finger, first finger, fourth finger. This is how this sounds. Example 4. And we go back down in reverse order. That should be pretty easy and pretty obvious. Let's do it at double time for the advanced players. Okay, so far so great. I'm starting to feel warmed up. Here's a variation on this. This is using triplets, and it would just be simply, this is alternate picking. You could also use what's in gypsy jazz we call this gypsy picking, where you go down, up, down, 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 up, down, down. That's definitely an advanced concept. And now here's example 5B, which is what I was mentioning earlier. It's simply using what we've already done and doubling the time. We're subdividing. So this is example 5B. And of course, you could use this for all of example 4, which would make it like for advanced players. Okay, now the last exercise is one that I particularly like because I find this helpful in improvising sometimes. It's a chromatic scale, and we'll start with a chromatic scale on one string. It's not even the complete scale, it's just 4 notes. We're starting at C on the G string at the 5th fret. Now, we're going to go back to the very beginning of this lesson and use all downstrokes for this, just so you can appreciate the concept of how a downstroke is the most perfect sound you can make with a guitar, usually. And you want all the notes to match, so we're using the downstroke sort of as our target for all sounds, even though the pitches are changing. All the notes should be the same quality of tone, timbre, volume, etc., etc. And then we do this, we add one more note on the adjacent string. We're building our way up to a full chromatic scale, but right now we just want to get the string crossing because that's sort of the last zone of warming up. You've warmed up each hand individually, you've synchronized them, but now the tricky part is crossing strings, and that can be a problem for a lot of people that they don't know they have. So we work on that by using it as a warm-up, and that would be like this. All downstrokes. A variation on this that's not here, but for more advanced players, would be to maybe linger on that string crossing. Allow me to demonstrate that. I add these variations so that you can see all the different variations that you can do on your own, depending upon what you feel like your hands need at any given level of your development. The very last example is example 8, and it's a partial chromatic scale on 2 strings, just so you can kind of get an idea of how this chromatics thing works. By the way, it's every note on the guitar. It's every note on every string, on every fret, but we're simply isolating right now C on the G string, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. So this looks like this. Example 8. Again, all downstrokes, all upstrokes, alternating, starting with an upstroke. And then you could also, as I say, what goes up must come down. You could just simply play We're going to finish the lesson with a full chromatic scale, and this involves the G string, the B string, and the E string, all the frets, those three strings, and one shift. And allow me to demonstrate. And then shift back, and then shift to the last note. In reverse order, we go and then shift the last note. Again. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I want to encourage you to spend as much time as you can. 10 or 15 minutes is great. 20 or 30 is even better for warming up. A lot of us don't have all that time in the world to practice, but if you do, I really recommend using warm-ups. Every great musician I know warms up for at least 10 or 15 minutes before every performance and every practice session. So happy practicing. I hope this helps. This is Paul Mailing saying goodbye. So once you've warmed up, then you can let it rip and do whatever you feel like. For instance, my favorite thing to work on right now is... Or...